Hello, friends of the internet. It's the Alternative F1 podcast, powered by Virgin Magazine. We're back again. We're back in the flow of things. We're not going away. We're hopefully back forever. No more holidays, 24/7, non-stop. It's happening. Andre Dixon, we're back. You've been awake all night watching NFL, you madman. Are you okay?
I'm surviving. I'm okay. But you know what? I'm getting that energy from you guys. So as tired as I was before, I'm all good to go now.
I'm going to say, if there's ever a day and ever a show where you can have a good bunch of wingmen and women to hold you up, today is the day. Because we have from Driven by Diversity, Steph Turner, Ariana Bravo. I feel like I've known you guys forever. We've had a lot of chats before this. How are you doing? Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having us.
Hello.
I'm good. I'm happy to be here with you guys.
Rocking and rolling. So we've got a lot of cool things to chat about today. We've got a lot of burning topics to get through. Format's a little different this time. You know, we normally will we're going to find out a lot about Ariana and Steph today, but also we are coming to the table with burning topics. So things that we want to talk about, because since we last did our podcast show, I feel like a lot has changed. The landscape has changed, but don't worry, fear not. We are here to hold your hand and guide you. But before we get started, we have to say a special thank you to the people making this podcast happen. And today, it's all down to Honor. So a big thank you to these lovely guys here. Honor, Shebang. These headphones that all the crew are rocking and wearing today. A big thank you to Honor for sending us these beautiful little headphones. Loving the blue box, fave color, so big up. So Honor Choice True Wireless Earbuds are out and available to try. They're available at Honor UK's website. And guess what? Only for $29.99. An unbelievable price. And we think she definitely, what a steal. Certified by Steph. She knows all about it. Marketing mind, knows a good thing when she sees it. And they're totally worth the price. They sound great, look good, and are pretty legit.
First of all, I'd just like to welcome you both again to the podcast. I'm really proud to have you guys on board. You know, I've been watching your work for a little while now, and you know, we're really ecstatic to have you guys on. So thank you again for your time. You know, we first noticed you guys, you know, because you're faces of a podcast driven by diversity, but it's more than just a podcast. Can you tell us a bit more about it?
Yeah, so Driven by Diversity is an organisation that has been set up to drive diversity within the motorsport industry, and it's headed up by Lindsay Orridge, who helped co-found it, and you guys have had lots of conversations with her as well. And there's lots of different industry experts on board, and they're working on different initiatives to help drive the change within the motorsport industry that is so needed. And as you said, Steph and I also co-host the podcast where we talk to lots of amazing guests about their experiences within the industry and what they want to see change in terms of diversity and inclusion.
Yeah, we've had some really great guests on. So starting with Naomi, Schiff and Nick Hamilton, and we're probably on about episode 10, 11 now. And we've had a load of guests from all different walks of life, obviously within the motorsport space, but all sort of different roles within the industry. So we've had some really interesting chats about their career, but also about diversity in the industry and why it's so important and what we need to start doing to make the space a lot more diverse and inclusive. So every Tuesday on Spotify, Google and Apple, and all of the other podcast platforms, you'll find our podcast dropping.
I like that. And I think when we've been kind of planting the seeds and having our first kind of chats, like the chemistry has been kind of off the scales. It feels like we're all kind of maybe from the same background in a sense. So, you know, you're checking out your website. There's a lot of really incredible people part of it, including yourself. So let's hear a bit more about your backgrounds. How has it led to this? Where have you guys kind of come from? And what's the mission?
So we are both massive Formula One fans, first and foremost, both mixed race ourselves. And we met at an event, actually a Formula One event at the Williams factory, kept in touch, and we've wanted to do something in the industry that will actually drive some change as opposed to just another thing to do. And I mean, diversity or the lack of it is a massive thing. It needs to be addressed and we can all do our little part. So Steph and I teamed up with Driven by Diversity And that's what brought us here, really. And we're just both trying to just push forward and see what else we can do, not just within the diversity space, but more widely as well, to bring some exciting content and cue you guys. And here we all are.
This is it. It's a dangerous mixing pot of ridiculous. Well, I don't know. You guys bring the intelligence, and me and Dre just bring the. I don't know. I don't want to put us down too hard, but yeah. God bless for having you guys here. Exactly. Yeah, they put themselves down too hard. But I think that's what's been really interesting, because, like we had discussed before, like we felt like our show as well was I guess was born at the pandemic, and finding ways to mix with our backgrounds. You know, Dre running Verge magazine and come from like a publishing kind of background and marketing and PR. Myself being more of a producer director in sport content, especially within F1 and football. And obviously these platforms, all of a sudden now we have this opportunity where people at home, and you know, it's almost easier to get access now to talent and guests, because the classic phrase, the new normal, which should be in thesaurus' dictionaries going forward, because of course that's the way the state of the world is now. And of course, we've been very lucky to speak to many interesting people. Yourselves, from Karan Chandak to Nick Hamilton, like you said, Naomi, our buddy Naomi Schiff. Now, what have you learned from doing these podcasts? What's been the experience so far, and how much have you just enjoyed just talking to people during these times?
Yeah, I think it's been really good to speak to such a broad range of people, because one of the aims of the podcast, obviously, not only to talk about diversity and get that conversation going and have people within the industry listen to these conversations. One of the aims is actually to inspire a younger generation into pursuing a career in motorsport. So presenting them with people already there, talent already in the industry, who are at the top of their game, and sort of giving them the insights, the advice, the encouragement and empowerment to really strive towards that goal, and show them that motorsport is for them, and showing them people that they can relate to and who represent them.
Now, you know, as we all know, obviously it's been a really tough year, especially when it comes to equality and diversity, with everything that's going on in this world. But it was almost, you know, your podcast, it almost seems fitting with the message behind Driven by Diversity. Now, you know, how do you feel that F1 is doing as a sport? You know, you know, with what you guys have, you know, the people that you've had conversations with, do you feel that, you know, with your podcast, you're helping to be able to shine a light on diversity, you know, so it can actually move forward in the right steps?
Yeah, I think that the podcast definitely helps the conversation drive forward. I think that F1 as a whole, the fact that they're acknowledging it, the fact that they're trying to do their bit with the end race as a message, and the We Race as One, is obviously a good start. I think there is a long way to go, not just within F1, within motorsports as a whole, and, you know, wider society. But we have to start somewhere, and it's no good bashing any attempt they make. I think it's good that they're making an attempt, but we've still got lots to learn. We've still got lots of conversations to be had, and hopefully we can just keep pushing and pushing, and eventually we'll actually see some tangible change. But it's a long journey.
I agree with that. I mean, the whole process is quite a long-term project in order to sort of diversify the industry. But there are obviously some short-term wins that we can do. But it's good to see what F1 is doing and what the wider motorsport space is doing, and some of the teams as well already, obviously with Mercedes at the beginning of the season with the all black livery. Bits and pieces like that, it's really good to see it all starting to come together. And I know that myself and Ariana are really excited to sort of see where it will lead to, and the sort of initiatives and projects that the industry can get involved in.
Do you guys feel that you know, obviously I know that, you know, some of the teams have really tried really hard, and obviously F1 themselves have really, you know, put as much weight as they possibly can behind the messaging. But do you feel that more can actually be done, especially from the teams? Because obviously when it comes to the kneeling and standing, you know, situation, you know, that brings some confusion and it doesn't look as cohesive. Do you feel like there's more that can actually be done by F1 as a whole, or do you reckon it's individual teams
Yeah, absolutely. Like everyone has their part to play and everyone has a responsibility. It's not just F1 or the FIA. It's every little piece of the puzzle that make up the sport. So from broadcasters to teams, as you say, to journalists and everything in between. So what we have talked a lot about with our guests on the podcast are sort of mentorships, scholarships, internships, and things like that. Because, for example, with teams, that's something that would be really easy to take on people from underrepresented groups for mentorships or for internships to give them the opportunities that they might have not otherwise had. So things like that, they're quite a good route to opening up and diversifying motorsport, I think. What do you think, Ariana?
Yeah, I agree. Like I said, progress is good, but there's still so much more to be done. The sport is really, really lacking diversity across the board, not just racially, gender, everything. So there's definitely way more to be done. Teams can, of course, do more. I mean, there's so many talented people out there, not just in the driver's sense, behind the scenes. You've got to start opening up those opportunities. And a big part of that is making the industry seem like a welcome place for people of different backgrounds. And that's where they've really got work to do.
I mean, yeah.
I'm going to say go for it, buddy. No, go for
sorry. I was just saying that obviously when, it's just over a year ago that Matt and myself, we were at the back at Silverstone in the paddock, and then literally it was just like, count any faces that weren't white. So I'm really hoping that, obviously our Avengers team up is that something that, is going to help shine a light on diversity, and also like provide proper opportunities for people to be able to get involved in being an engineer, media, whatever it is. But just more people, from different backgrounds and ages in the sport.
I think that's an encouraging thing, right? As well, it's something I brought up on the podcast before, and a bit boring for Dre to hear it, but maybe for new listeners that come through. When I did a shoot at Brooklands, up at Mercedes World, Lewis Hamilton, almost maybe around last year, and one of the questions that was kind of put to him was about diversity, and if there was enough diversity in it. Now, you'd think that any kind of typical person in media, in almost in a football sense, you get kind of very robotic answers. But of course, Lewis is Lewis and gives very awesome, passionate answers, carefully thinks about these topics, and straight up said, no, there isn't. And I think, with what's going on in the world today, it's, I guess, in a way, one, sad that something very tragic has had to happen to stimulate something that should have been a thing anyways. But also, it's great that, in a sense, that Lewis is the spearhead, not just in the sport, but pretty much globally, trying to make a real difference and making that sign, taking brave decisions, great decisions, like the Breonna Taylor T-shirt that he wore last time around on the podium. So very encouraging things from Lewis. And, I think positive change can come. And I think you look at this podcast today, us four are a complete mix. If anything, me and Steph are rocking Team Philippines. Like we're the dominating squad up in here. But this isn't like a tick in a box and we've gone, right, let's get a black and Asian and white and tick, 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 tick. And we haven't. But that is the landscape of F1. It should be the landscape of sport. It's a multicultural, exciting place to be. Of course, it's reflected in our drivers, but of course, we want to see it more in media. We want to see it more behind the scenes in garages. And I think and hope and believe that we are definitely moving into the right step. But we need to power on, because we have a lot of burning toppings to get through. This is a fun bit for all you guys. But before we get started, we want to say a massive shout out to the Natural Barber Company, another long-standing great partner of the podcast. Make sure that you, first of all, also go to Virgin Magazine to get call information. But first, Natural Barber is free of synthetics, petrochemicals, and other harmful ingredients that irritate the skin. And you don't want that. Gareth Bell, my good mate. I say he's a good mate. I've done a lot of his product work, but I'm just going to pretend he's my mate. He does call it his go-to hair product. It was something that I introduced to his team. When Gareth saw it in his gym, he was massively impressed by that product. So now, thanks to Natural Barber, you can shop now and get 25% off free next day delivery in the UK when you use the code Alt Sport 25. So get on that. Alt Sport 25. Don't miss out. And if you missed it, just press pause, press back, hit a rewind. It's Alt Sport 25, you mad people. So visit naturalbarber.co. Now, this is how it's going to work. I have asked Steph, Dre, Ariana before the show, pick a burning topic, bring it forward. I'm going to play devil's advocate. I will throw it back to everyone else in the room. So we're pretty much at the halfway stage, I feel, with this season. Races keeping getting added, so it may never end. As long as 2020 exists, we're going to keep going. So we're going to kick off with Dre, my good man. What is your burning topic of the week?
My topic is I'm gonna put everything out there, and I've looked at performances of both drivers, since this switch has been made, and I think you know where I'm going now.
Yeah.
Should not have been moved away from the seat in Red Bull. I think that Red Bull have jumped the gun in taking him out of the seat. They should have stuck with him, because if you look at the performances of both, I love Albon. I think Alex Albon. I think he's an amazing guy, great, really great driver in the future. But if we're talking about the here and now, we can actually see that Pierre, and I'm not just talking about just because he obviously won the other day. I'm talking about because consistently, since he's been, effectively moved back into the junior position, he's actually been killing it. He's been aggressive. His performances have been, he's been a leader of that team more than Kvyat, and plus obviously he's been rewarded by obviously getting his first win the other day. But like literally, I feel that they made a mistake. They're putting a lot of pressure on Alex Albon, which I think is going to be detrimental to him. And I want to know if you guys agree with me, where they think, okay, well, you know what, maybe he might be right. Maybe they should have stuck with a little bit longer with Pierre.
All right, so this is a bit where I try and stir the pot. Now, I kind of definitely felt like Pierre had it coming. His performance wasn't good enough. But I'm going to leave this for Steph and Ariana to kind of break it all down. But as we stand at this point in the season, Alex Albon is actually 5th with 63 championship points. Pierre Gasly is currently 10th with 43. Now, of course, there's one podium for Alex that he got in the last race. Of course, Gasly got his win. Now, Pierre has been much improved, and Alex has been with, let's say, a below standard Red Bull car. Now, often the stats and the numbers don't lie. So, ladies, what we're saying, are we with Dre on this?
Well, to be honest, Gasly, I really rate him as a driver. His first season, I think it was the second race, Bahrain, he came P4 in his second race. Like, that's incredible with Toro Rosso. And he does perform in that car, well, now for Tauri. But I think Red Bull are just very ruthless. They've obviously designed that car around Verstappen, so it's going to suit his driving style, I think. Any driver that gets put up next to Verstappen has obviously a tall order. And it's tough. Like, we're even seeing it with Albon now. Like, obviously he's performing, but not at the level that Verstappen is performing. So I think that's quite telling. But going back to my previous point, Red Bull were just ruthless. I think if you don't perform, you're out. So, yeah.
Yeah, I agree with Steph. Red Bull are ruthless. But I think whoever goes up against Max is not going to come out great. They're not going to look great against Max. I think that Gasly is doing really well, but I do wonder whether part of the reason he's doing so well now is because he's able to just shine by himself. He's not being compared to Max all the time. He's able to just put his head down. He's in a car that he's comfortable in, and he can just focus. Whereas when you're up against Max, I mean, every race, that's what you're being benchmarked against. So I think it's a tricky one. I think that's what Alex is suffering with now as well. Every single race, they're like, oh, is he going to be dropped like Gasly was? Oh, he's here and Max is here. And I mean, Max is an exceptional talent. It's similar to what happens with Bottas and Hamilton as well. You know, when your teammate is exceptional, you're never going to come across quite as good. And that pressure it's tough. It's tough.
there's definitely other teams, especially for next season, that are going to have much more, I guess, interesting balance. Of course, Ferrari with Charles Leclerc and Carlos Sainz will be really fascinating to see what happens there with all the challenges that Ferrari is going with. So, I mean, Dre, some interesting points thrown back at you. I mean, do you stick at twist? Do you feel like that Albon? Do you think Gasly's improved enough that it should threaten Albon? Do you think momentum's going to work in favour of Alex?
Well, I mean, I think they wouldn't. They would look really, really silly if there was to make a switch again. It just look, throw off both drivers. But I just think that, when you actually have someone as a number 2 driver, obviously the Red Bull are running differently than a ruthless Ferrari or a higher standard Mercedes where there's like serious pressure. They are supposed to be more of a fun team, like grooming young people to be able to be the next world champions. So I feel that they should have actually given Pierre Gasly a little bit more time to be able to develop, at least the season. Because then, if you look at what's happening now, to be honest with you, if with the way that Gasly is performing, he would actually be a better partner for Max because. At the end of the day, is that with a better car, if you look at the car that he's actually got, it's not as bad. But if you imagine with him performing the way he is now with that car, I think that he'll be able to at least give Max a bit of cover because Max is having to try to catch up with these guys and actually be defending at the back too. He wouldn't have to worry about that if Gasly was there. So I'm sticking to my point, Team Gasly.
All right, well, we'll quickly do a little roundup to check. Ariana, if you're Red Bull, would you stick Team Albon or do you go Team Gasly?
I would stick Team Albon, also partly because I think that Gasly shouldn't just go running back just because they want him.
I like it. I like it. What about you, Steph?
I love them both, but I think I have to agree with Ariana. Once the ties have cut, you've just got to show them that you're better off elsewhere, and that's what I love, that he's doing that.
Us playing hard to get here.
Yeah, exactly. You got to play hard to get. I would be the same. I would probably have to do the stubborn approach and be like, you know what, that's it. Job done here. Power on and focus on yourself. The shackles seem to be off Pierre Gasly. He seems much more confident. Of course, winning at Monza is a huge statement. But the numbers don't lie. Albon's got more points, so Team Albon, let's go, brother. That's how it's going to be for me. So thank you, Dre. That's a
hidden agenda there.
There you go. No, of course not. But an important discussion. Like this is it's a very, it's all to play for the Russian Grand Prix with the way the track is. It's going to create some interesting opportunities. But before we get started, of course, you would notice that today we are missing Sam Wilson, the usual third member of this boy band. Well, he has pre-recorded for us another awesome segment that he also did when we had the OT Arena show with Naomi Schiff. Here is Sam Wilson's 5 things that he's looking forward to at the Russian Grand Prix.
It's been a while since we've done one of these, but with the Russian GP this weekend, we thought we'd add another one in. So here's 5 things to look out for at this weekend's Sochi Grand Prix. So number 1 is qualifying. Normally you'd expect to qualify P1, and you'd think that's a good thing, but not at Sochi Autodrome. No. The first braking zone is so far away that whoever's behind you in P2 gets the best toe possible, and then you just end up in second. So we'll probably see Valtteri Bottas aiming for P2 this weekend, so definitely keep an eye on that on Saturday morning. Our native Russian, Daniel Kvyat. There's been rumours circulating that he's going to be dropped by Red Bull this year and substituted with F2 rookie Yuki Tsunoda, which would be great for the sport, an up-and-coming driver. But do we really want to see Danny Kvyat go? I mean, yeah, he's the torpedo and he gets himself into some scrapes, but he's a pretty solid driver. And this weekend is his home race, so let's expect him to be out for blood. Let's expect him to prove Red Bull wrong, and I hope he comes home with a good result. And let's hope he beats Pierre to the post. Number 3, pit stop length. So Sochi Autodrome has one of the slowest pit lane entry speeds of just 60 kph instead of 80 kph at your standard tracks. This is because of a tricky pit lane entry. This could mean that we see pit stops of up to 30 seconds, and teams really have to manage those stops and make sure they get it right, because otherwise they could really fall down the order after a long stop. DRS. So Sochi Autodrome is quite a tricky track to overtake on because of negative camber, which means the track falls away and it doesn't fall in, so the banking on corners is harder to overtake. But it has a lot of straights. So from turn 18, which is the final corner, all the way to turn 2, that is one long flat out straight. There's 2 keen DRS zones we're going to see a lot of overtakes on, so buckle up because there's going to be some amazing overtakes this weekend. Number 5, redemption. There's a lot of drivers on the grid this weekend that have either lost seats or are still fighting for a place in the team. Checo Perez is leaving Racing Point and he's got a lot to prove. Haas, Roman Grosjean and Kevin Magnussen. Gunther Steiner hasn't said anything about the driver lineup yet, other than there's a lot of drivers on the cards. So Roman Grosjean and Kevin Magnussen are really going to be punching to see if they can prove their weight. So let's expect a lot of drivers going out and trying to gun for blood. Same as Danny Kvyat. He's going to be, with Red Bull on the cards, he's going to be doing the same. But Checo's got to prove his point. Checo's got to prove whether he's good enough for a seat at Haas. And also, there's a lot of news about Antonio Giovinazzi potentially losing his seat and Kimi Räikkönen leaving. So let's see what happens at the back of the grid. I think we could be in for a pretty amazing midfield battle this weekend.
Big up, Sam. Thank you so much for that awesome 5 things for us. We will see you back in the next episode, of course. He'll be back up and running. So yeah, very interesting. Point 1, very interesting about the seats. So I guess topic 2, Ariana?
Is driver lineups. It has to be driver lineups. So this year, we've obviously had a few curveballs thrown at us. It sort of all kicked off when Ferrari dropped Vettel, to a lot of people's surprise. And that's just opened this domino effect, right? We had Vettel disappearing, Carlos Sainz coming in to steal his seat. Not sure how he feels about that now, given the performance, but alas. And then that made way for Daniel Ricciardo to slot in at McLaren, the dream team next year. I think they're going to be absolutely hilarious, him and Lando. And cue the return of Fernando Alonso to Renault, which will be Alpine. And then we find out that Vettel is joining what will be Aston Martin alongside Lance Stroll. But we still have 8 seats unconfirmed, technically. Obviously, the Mercedes seat is going to go to Lewis Hamilton, or, I don't know what to say if that doesn't happen. That will be the biggest curveball. And the Red Bull and AlphaTauri are going to be between Albon and Gasly. But we have empty seats at Haas. We have Alfa Romeo, who are still deciding. They have said that they're going to sort of be planning around Kimi Räikkönen. But I want to know what you guys think. Is it time to bring in some of the F2 talent? Is it time to kick out some of who we've got and give some of the youngsters a shot? Even though we have also got Fernando Alonso coming back just to reclaim his position in the sport? Or do you think that we need to move Perez around and shuffle it all around a little bit? I personally am really sad for Perez. I don't know about you guys.
Sad. Super sad.
I'm really upset to see him go. So do you think that he should slot in somewhere else, or nah, his time's gone?
Well, this is a thing. If we're going off what we've been seeing, even from practice sessions this morning, Tiffy ain't making it really easy for the F2 flag for doing that transition. He's not. It's tough enough being in a Williams car. I think it's tough enough having to deal with the pressure. And God, he's a likable guy. I feel warm and happy inside when I see him do an interview. Like him and with George Russell, they just seem great together. But it's hard for me to see where and who would come up from the F2 at the moment. I think Sondo looks like it could be an interesting one. I think that would be my wild card if I was to pick one. But of course, there are some, the current names that are floating around is very interesting because, of course, at risk, Kvyat, K-Mag, Grosjean, Giovinazzi, a lot of question marks. And then again, what do we do with Sergio? And Hulk was amazing. So could we somehow have some super team with Perez and Hulk? I think that would be the purists. That would be the kind of thing that would get people excited. I think we're probably going to say goodbye to Kimi. But then hello again, of course. We've got Alonso back. So there's a lot of kind of crazy merry-go-round stuff going on. So there's a lot of interesting names in the mix. I don't think we'll see maybe too many big shots, but I think there needs to be a lot of focus with Alpha and Haas because those are the teams that desperately want change, need change, and probably should use this opportunity to blood new names or the guys that are fan favorites because that's what invests people. And I just think from a marketing, a PR view, it'd be insane to lose someone like a Sergio Perez after Canada. I've been lucky enough to experience a Mexican Grand Prix. And it's like Michael Jackson's in town. He's a superstar. The noise, it doesn't matter where he is on the grid. When he's passing through the baseball stadium, people are going crazy. The sound is unbelievable. His face is everywhere. So if we lost Sergio Perez, the Mexican fans, I'm scared, I think, what will happen. But I don't know, Dre, what do you think, buddy? I think you've got a few emotions connected to some of these drivers involved.
Yeah, I mean, I'm torn between two different worlds. Obviously, the one is obviously the business world where, you know, practically obviously you know that it costs a lot of money to be able to run these teams, so they need sponsors. So someone like, you know, Perez, who's, you know, extreme friends, if not best friends, or almost family with Carlos Slim, who's like one of the most, you know, richest people on the face of this planet. You know, you're going to need that money. You know, it's obviously because you can't just bankroll it yourself. However, I do feel that there's a responsibility to, especially like the smaller teams, like Alfa Romeo has, like, to be able to blood in new people. Because if you look at, like, you know, a couple of seasons ago, you know, we had a few new drivers, and you know, and I think that obviously now all of them have stepped up, and it's refreshed the actual sport. You know, if you look at, obviously Alfa Romeo had Charles Leclerc, and you know, he performed really, really well for them, and it actually made me watch them more. Whereas now with Raikkonen, I just think, what's the point? You're just blocking progression of new drivers. It's like, so what side do I lean on? You know, my head was obviously saying, you know, go with someone like Perez, obviously, but he's had several opportunities, and I would like him to be able to get another one, but more so probably at Haas. But I do feel like, you know, someone like Alfa Romeo needs to actually just be getting in some of the F2 drivers. So I'm gonna go with my heart, because I love the sport and I want the sport to progress, and I want new faces in. So yeah, I definitely think there should be new faces rather than the old. So out with the old.
I like that, and I guess that's the interesting thing as well. Like, I feel like when I first come across Kimi Räikkönen, I think it was almost 2 seasons ago. Holy hell, that guy is so over it, and I love that. I kind of like that I don't give an F kind of attitude. There's a bit of that in me, apart from I'm still 30. I'm not as old as Kimi and tired of the world. So big up to him. I like his approach. It would be weird to not have him shouting at his mechanics on the radio. It would be sad. Going to the F2 stuff, like, of course, in the top 3 of F2, Mick Schumacher, Callum Eilert, Christian Lundgaard. I mean, it's hard. It's not enough room for everyone. I think if I was to put out a super mega wildcard thing, that could be the bombshell of all bombshells and make Drive to Survive next series really compelling. Well, you know, Toto still have those shares in Aston Martin. Maybe he jumps ship. There's Aston Martin, brings Lewis Hamilton over. Then we got a Lewis Hamilton Vettel super team at Aston Martin. Just take the money and run. Steph, am I going mad? Is that crazy?
Yeah, I think you're a little bit crazy, just because Lance Stroll will always obviously be there as long as his dad is sort of leader of the team as such. But I think the ones to look out for are Haas and Alfa Romeo, particularly, well, both of them, because obviously they have links to Ferrari, but particularly Haas. Gunther Steiner has come out and said, obviously, he if he's asked to, he'll consider some of the juniors to run them in for a practice session. So we've got Mick Schumacher, Callum Eilert, and Robert Schwartzman as options, but then also as option 2, you could either keep Magnussen and Grosjean, but they've been there a while, and I feel like it's a bit stale. Grosjean's been there since the beginning of Haas. Magnussen's been there since season 2 of Haas. I kind of think they need to swap it around, one or both. Who knows? A bit of a fresh injection. And then hopefully that can get Haas back on the road, because they started to fall off the wagon a bit. Or the third option is obviously bringing in Perez or Hülkenberg back. So there's a few options on the table, but I don't know which one I'd choose. Maybe bringing one of the F2 boys up, and then maybe bringing in Perez or Hulk, but probably it's difficult. I want to say Perez, but I do like
You're
Hulk,
torn.
so I'd love to see him back. Yeah, difficult.
I think that's the thing. I think Haas, at least, they definitely need an experienced driver in there. And yeah, bless K-Mags and Roman. Like, obviously, Roman behind the scenes is a very important character for the F1 guys. And
true.
also very involved with all the kind of positive things that they're trying to get together with, anti-racism and diversity and all that good stuff. So, it'd be a shame to lose him in that sense. But on the track, Haas just need a refresh and a re-up. But nevertheless, we just got to stay tuned. A lot of exciting things to come through this season. It's not over yet. If we thought Pierre getting a P1 at Monza was mad, we're in for a surprise. So more is to come. I'm sure the awesome people at Drive to Survive are licking their lips, going, right, we've got pretty fun season to kind of map out here. So big up to Netflix. I'm looking forward to that. Steph, finally, on to you.
Yes, indeed. So my hot topic that I want to bring to the table is invitational Grand Prix, or calendar rotations, or joker races. There's a few phrases being thrown about there for the same thing. But the idea is that each season would have one or two sort of fresh new races, whether they're races that we've been to previously but aren't on the calendar year in, year out, just to sort of bring a bit more of excitement, fresh injection into what tends to be a repetitive calendar with the same old races on each season. So we saw it with Mugello, the last race. Obviously, what an epic race. And we've got some good races coming up. Well, hopefully they'll be good in the sense that they're on the COVID calendar, but not usually on the normal season. So Turkey, Imola, Nürburgring, Portimao, and even the outer ring at Bahrain. So looking forward to those. I think another reason why I'm very much for this is just the nostalgia of iconic tracks. Like, we saw it when Turkey was announced. Social media went wild. So I'm looking forward to, if that was implemented for seasons going forward, how much excitement that would bring. But the reason why it brings so much excitement is because for example, with Mugello, going back to that one, there's a lack of current race data. So that brings vulnerability into the mix for the teams. It breaks the monotony and consistency. So, for example, with Sochi coming up, we know the Mercs run well there. But at a new track, who knows who's going to come out on top? And then a final point, I guess, it comes down to money. At the end of the day, where Formula One involved, there will be finance talks. Hosting fees become less of an issue with invitational Grand Prix. So smaller tracks can afford the one-offs. We saw it with Silverstone last year. We didn't know whether they were going to re-sign for the new contract. It was a bit touch and go, but I think, hate to say it, obviously would love to see Silverstone on the season year in, year out, but it might just be an option for tracks like that to give them that financial break to be able to afford to host a race every now and again rather than each year. Because I know it is obviously a struggle for some of those smaller tracks.
Not all good things can last. I'm going to see if I can try and break up Ariana and Steph on episode 1 of our partnership here. We into this, Ariana?
Yeah, I think it will
damn it.
mix things up a little bit. Yeah, we have a strong bond here. I think it will mix things up a little bit, but I do also think that more widely stuff needs to change in order to keep Formula One engaging in terms of coverage, content, etc. You know, we need more than like chucking the odd random track in or like reverse grid ideas and like things like that. I feel like they're trying to pluck up really innovative ideas, which are good, but you need to start from the ground up. You need to also work on what's already existing. But yeah, I think it'd be fun. The odd track that's a bit different.
Yeah, and also, do you know what? It just gives the opportunity for races to be held in parts of the world where the F1 circus doesn't visit.
Exactly.
So it brings in another fan base. Like, for example, Africa. We don't have a race in that whole of the continent. So a one-off race there, that would be really good for the economy of the particular country or city it was held, but also bring in fans from that area.
Dre, what do you reckon, buddy? You're if there's ever a man I know who likes fun, it's Dre. So how do we spice it up, Dre? What do we do?
Yeah, I'm in complete. I think we've got almost like a full house here, because I really do feel that, you know, this season's been really, really interesting because obviously there's different tracks, sort of same old stuff again and again, and this is the same type of theme across the board with everything we're pleading for is excitement, change, new things, you know, new venues. new people getting involved, new markets. I really do agree with everything the girls have said. I mean, you know, I really loved the last race. It was absolutely, it was a complete, utter, literally crash. It kept on starting again and again and again, but like it made to the drama and the excitement. So can't keep on having the same old races, the same old places all the time, because it becomes dull and boring. So yeah.
Well, I think you guys have brought to the table 3 very compelling, burning topics. I think most F1 fans want to get to the bottom of, and so yeah, big up. I think that's the first hit of that format on F1, crossed with Driven by Diversity. I think that was a pretty solid effort, and yeah, what good topic points here. I feel like if we had a government in this country that could see us,
we'd run it.
All of that. We'd run it, and COVID would be cured. We'd all be billionaires, and life would be proper sweet.
Yeah.
So I'd be all for that. Now, of course, in the background, we've got P2 kind of cracking on here at the moment. Bottas is kind of topping things as it goes. So last year's race results, we're going to head into our wrap up, where we're going to look towards the Russian Grand Prix this weekend. Of course, last year it was a Mercedes 1-2, or Lewis and Bottas. And Charles Leclerc, who had a good year, came third, back when Ferraris are really, really on top of things. Let's throw it out there. We'll go to the Driven squad first. How do we think this Russian Grand Prix is going to roll out this weekend?
It will be another Mercedes win, I think.
So.
I don't think they'll be knocked off the top spot. It definitely won't be by Ferrari if they are. I mean, I don't want to jinx anything. That would be crazy. I think it'll be Mercedes win again. Sorry to say for those who are bored, but I think it will be.
Do you know what? On paper, I would agree with you. It would be Hamilton, Bottas, Verstappen, as it has been for many races this season.
Go-to.
But yeah, it's the go-to one. But I kind of want to throw it up a bit. I'm getting psychic vibes, and Ariana, you know about my psychic vibes.
Uh-oh.
I do.
I think Ricciardo might end up on the podium. That's a bit of a wild card one. And I think Verstappen might win it. I know that sounds crazy, but I just had some really good psychic vibes earlier this week. But yeah, as I say, on paper, Mercedes have won it since 2014 every race. So
but
I mean,
that can't go on forever, I guess.
Exactly, it can't go on. And also, do you know what? They've got the Netflix crew with them this race. So you know what happened last time? Yeah. And I think it was 2 other teams that had Netflix with them this season, and both cars for both teams DNF'd. So who knows?
Dre, I guess it's a Gasly with a P1, and then what happens after that?
You know what? I do want some type of change, because obviously it can't be coming samey with the same 3 guys finishing in the same positions all the time. So it was really nice to see some new people on the podium the other week, but it won't happen. Not this week. So I think it's going to be the same. Obviously, Hamilton first, Bottas second. Just about, because he seems like he's struggling with form at the moment, and then Verstappen third. But more interesting further down, I'm looking at Lando finishing 4th. That's what I'm. That's
I like that, Joe.
I like that.
It's not a bad thing. Like, if you as we're looking at it, as P2 is a Bottas is up at the top at the moment. Now, if we're going to listen to Sam's advice, as he said in the top 5, that there's a really good opportunity to get a toe off the start of the Russian Grand Prix. Mm-hmm. So if you're smart and if you're Lewis, hey, take it. Just like we saw last year. Just go P2, brother. Take that. Take the toe, slip in there, and own the race. I think that's the way. That would be the way that could make it fun. But you know what? Let's just see a bit of action. We don't need red flags and the whole of the race. We just want to see some new names. I would love to see if Lando can get the momentum that he had at the start of the season. See some more points climbing up those championship places.
In the last lap.
You never know. Yeah. Scenario 7. Is it still?
I'll just say this as well. It was really interesting to be able to see, because you don't obviously see it much, Lewis having to overtake people, and I think he actually had fun that happened. I'm not saying he's going to slow down his qualifying time so he can prove a point, but like that, those types of things made things, more interesting. So I'm hoping at some point he's not just always in the lead. He has to overtake people.
Yeah.
I still want him. I just love to see him overtake people.
Well, there's a big race for him this weekend as well, because obviously if he wins, he'll match Schumacher's record of 91 wins. So going to be a monumental one if he does it.
We can only hope, and I think this is going to be a weekend where hopefully we're going to get a very, very good idea of where things are going to be panning out. Of course, that's all the time we have for today, ladies and gentlemen. This is it. We've kind of hit a home run. We surfed through technical difficulties that you guys will never notice through the power of editing, which is always a wonderful thing. But hey, it's been an awesome one. Steph, Ariana, what is coming up on Driven by Diversity? Is there anything you could tell us to look forward to? Is it all hush hush?
Yeah. Well, each Tuesday, as I said, we have guests drop in with new episodes. So coming up, can we reveal, Ariana?
Yeah, go on.
Yeah. So our next guest is a guy called Greg Hatton, and he has been in the industry for a little while, and he's probably most known for being the right-hand man to James Stewart, otherwise known as Bubba Stewart, motocross legend over in America. So he's a very good episode to listen to for any new listeners that want to tune in on Tuesday.
I like that. I like how Aaron was kind of a bit of me that reluctantly like, oh, here we go, Steph spoiling the beans. Look at that. Spoiler alert. But hopefully, everyone listening through the podcast, Deezer, iTunes, Spotify, get on that. Give these awesome ladies a follow, because we love what we're doing. You're going to see a lot more awesome content of us together as we go through this crazy season. So yeah, awesome. A little exclusive there. Dre, any last passing words from you, good sir, as we ride off into the sunset, as the sunshine basks down on me, burning my face. It's like God is telling me it's my time to go, but I'll let you have the last say. What we saying up in the Dixon complex?
You're glowing. You're glowing. I'm loving it. I'll try to get.
I feel younger. It's not the beer that I lost,
as I normally am. No, honestly, I'm really excited about the future. We've got a lot of things together planned with these awesome two. And, we're just going to keep on, giving great content. We've got some really exciting things going. You wouldn't believe what we've got planned and where we're going to be doing our shows from in the future. I've talked Matt into doing some crazy things, and I'll continue to do so in the future. And, thank you guys for teaming up with us. And, we're really looking forward to this new format continuing. And so we can debate and I can get more people on Team Pierre. And, argue with your points as well. But, I'm so hyped to have you on board.
Thanks so much for having us. Loved it.
Thank you.
Where can we find you guys, personal and business, on the socials? Where can we find you?
You can find me at arianabravo.gp on Instagram. And on Instagram, I'm at Steph J Turner _. And then for the podcast, it's at We Are Driven by Diversity. And then if you want to listen to the podcast, it's just the Driven by Diversity podcast.
Well, you heard it here first, friends of the internet. Get on that. Get hunting. Me and Dre will have some crazy stuff happen, as long as there isn't a third, fourth, fifth, sixth wave of coronavirus. I don't know where we are at anymore. Then we will certainly be having some awesome things coming through. Get yourself again on these on-air headphones. Big, good bunch of guys and girls over there making things happen. Shout, I still love the box. Massively obsessed. A huge thank you to Sam Wilson, who you'll see next week. And you two as well, of course. As ever, thank you so much. This has been Alt F1 Podcast, powered by Verge, and we shall see you next time. Peace.